I think that was one of the sleeper issues that was absolutely one of the defining issues in this last election. I think you had those independent voters, even Democrat lean left voters, that just couldn't stomach how radical the Democrats have become. That's a proof point around how crazy they are and why I can't vote for them. And I think that was really a defining issue that was part of Trump's landslide. I really do.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Gains for Girls podcast. What a crazy past week, really, with the whole Simone Biles feud back and forth. I still am in disbelief that she initially tweeted the things she did. I'm shocked that it got the media coverage that it did. She just recently issued an apology. How sincere it was, that's the question. Would she have issued this apology had she not received the onslaught of pushback that she has received from the public, from people? I saw so many comments when I was reading them before she turned her comments off, from parents of young girls or young girls themselves who say, Simone, I've looked up to you my whole life. What are you doing selling out women and girls? So all that to say, I almost feel bad for her, truthfully. But nonetheless, the apology, it was issued. I accept it. I have invited her to join the fight, to stand for fairness and a future for female athletes in women's sports. We have an exciting episode today. But before we get into that, I want to tell you, number one, go to youtube.com. That's where you can find all things Gains for Girls, youtube.com/OutKick, that is. You can like, you can subscribe, you can comment, engage with others in the comments section. It means the world to me when you guys subscribe over there. And secondly, I want to tell you about today's sponsor. It is Cozy Earth. We're in the middle of June at this point. I'm sure you have been there where it's hot outside, it's hot in your room, no matter how high your fan is. You're tossing and turning in the middle of the night. You just wish your sheets could cool you down. You've been there, I'm sure. I've been there. And honestly, I wish that I had known about Cozy Earth's bamboo sheets back then. These things are a game changer. They're made from viscose from bamboo, which means they actually wick away heat and moisture, so you sleep like several degrees cooler. No more sweaty nights. Again, this matters given the fact that, look, I'm in Tennessee. It is hot. It is humid. I now sleep so amazing. I wake up feeling fully recharged, replenished, and ready to go for the next day. I've been using Cozy Earth sheets for a while now. They've transformed my sleep. Even my husband is obsessed. We ended up gifting a set to my sister. I have two sisters, an older one and a younger one. My older sister is 27. She had a baby about 9 months ago, so comfort is always up her alley. And now she won't shut up about how soft they are. I told you guys during Father's Day, I got my father the all-day tee, the everywhere pant. I've given both my parents have, of course, the sheets. My sister now does too. Her and her husband love them. You can check it out at CozyEarth.com. They will give you a 100-night sleep trial and a 10-year warranty on bedding. If you're not in love, return them. But I promise you, you don't have to worry about this. You will want to keep them forever. Again, especially on those hot summer nights. CozyEarth.com. Use my code GAINS, GAINES, for 40% off. Go check it out. Today, we are talking to U.S. Senator Daines. He is the senator of the beautiful, beautiful state of Montana. We have a lot to talk about. We have seen the ongoing negotiations with the big, beautiful bill, as Trump calls it. We are here to discuss that. One story in particular that I'm super excited to ask him about out of Montana, his home state, out of Missoula, which is a very deep blue dot in this beautiful red state. Just this past week in the city of Missoula, it was actually the Missoula City Council that voted 9-2 to make the pride flag the city's official flag. This was despite of Governor Gianforte's new law that he signed, ultimately banning pride flags from being flown on government property or at schools. So you'll get his take on that. Very exciting stuff. Check out this episode with U.S. Senator Daines here. Well, Senator Daines, thank you so much for joining the Gains for Girls podcast. Really, really excited to have you on, especially given some of the headlines that we have seen out of your home state, the state that you represent, Montana, this past week. But before we get into any of that, I wanted to ask you, can you give us an update on the big, beautiful bill, where negotiations currently stand, what are the key components that are still in flux, and how confident are you that this can pass in a form that you will support?
Yeah. Well, I mean, literally, Riley, as I was coming down to my office to do the segment with you, I was on the floor with Chairman Mike Crapo, Chairman of the Finance Committee. I'm on the Finance Committee, so it's the inner circle of the battle right now on a lot of these policies. The plan right now is to have this on the floor of the Senate that last week of June. That'd be the week of the 23rd. Get that passed, and then we toss it back to the House, because they have to have another vote on it, because we're changing a few things in the bill that the House originally passed, and then it goes to President Trump's desk. So the goal right now is to have this on President Trump's desk by the 4th of July. That's what we're working against.
That's a pretty good deadline.
It is. Pretty good gift. As I just did a TV hit with Kudlow there on Fox Biz about a half hour ago. I said, Larry, and I'll say this to Riley, when you step back, remember two really important things. Number one, this stops the biggest tax increase in American history. And much all the fight going on, we've got to deliver this, stopping the biggest tax increase in American history. Keep in mind, every single Democrat is going to oppose us on this, every one of them. But second, it's going to deliver about $1.5 trillion of real spending reductions. That's one of the biggest spending reduction bills that we've had in the history of Congress. The White House says it's the biggest one, but it's definitely on the short list. So just starting with that 30,000-foot view is important amidst all these policy fights we've got here in some of the details.
Yeah, well, incredible news, incredible work. We've been following, of course, everything that's been going on. I was telling you prior to recording, just the scrutiny that you all are under, the inability to appease everyone. But we trust President Trump. We trust his America First agenda. So thank you for being so willing to defend it. I wanted to get your take on one more thing, actually, before we get to the story out of Missoula. Of course, this past week, the state of California, specifically Los Angeles, is on fire. What is your take on what's unfolding in LA right now? Do you see this as a failure of local leadership or state leadership, or is this something that can be handled on a broader national scale?
Well, to be clear, I see it a failure of liberal leadership. And so
That's right.
Whether that starts at the community level, the county level, the state level, it's across the board failure. Now, keep in mind what President Trump has told ICE to do is to start by taking the worst of the worst. So these are illegal aliens, but these are the criminals who are convicted in many cases. These can be rapists, these can be murderers, these are convicted of violent crimes, that some of these countries basically opened the prison cells and flooded our country under Joe Biden's watch, because ICE has a huge task in front of them. We've got millions of illegal aliens here in the country, and so what they're doing is they're prioritizing. Let's get the worst of the worst off the streets first. That makes sense. So they went in to take 120 of the worst off the streets of Los Angeles, and that's what has sparked these riots. We're parents of 4 children. We have 2 sons and 2 daughters. We now have 6 grandchildren. Hopefully our 7th will be born here in Dallas in the next couple of days. Our daughter is literally in the final few days here of pregnancy. And we care a lot, as parents do and grandparents, the safety of our children and grandchildren. And this is what President Trump is helping deliver here for the American people, is to restore law and order and bring safety back to our communities.
And it's amazing to me that you have an entire political party, at least in terms of elected representation, and you're right, at every level, local, state, and federal, that seem to oppose this. And when you say it, when you phrase it like you did, which is exactly what's happening, President Trump is removing the worst of the worst. Gang members, rapists, pedophiles, human traffickers, murderers, really horrific, heinous, unimaginable crimes these people have committed, despite the fact that they're in this country illegally in the first place. Amazing to me that we have a political party that opposes that, and it's certainly not the Republican Party. And I've hardly seen any condemnation from the left following what we're seeing happening in LA. Do you think that there are some Democrats that are enabling this kind of lawlessness, either by silence or, of course, by policy. Specifically, people like Gavin Newsom, who has not only allowed for this, he's doubled down on his stance here.
No doubt about it. I mean, you think about just this notion, even sanctuary cities is basically permitting lawlessness to occur in pockets around our country. And that's the concern, is that if you allow LA to continue to be on fire, the looters, the horrible images we've seen here, lighting members of law enforcement vehicles on fire, that kind of cancer spreads around the country. Anarchists look at that and they say, let's do that here in our city. And as we're starting to enter the summer season, of course, when it tends to peak, this could be a huge problem for the country. So President Trump is right to try to stop it now in Los Angeles before it spreads further. Riley, one other point I want to make on what ICE is doing, it came right out of Montana. We had some of these Trans de Aragua, the worst of the worst Venezuelan gang members that came into our country, these TDA members. There were a handful of them in my hometown of Bozeman, Montana. That's where I went to kindergarten through college. And to think they're in our backyards, literally in Bozeman. And I was talking to our local law enforcement there, our local sheriff's department, when ICE came in February, grabbed these guys and deported them. They told me they knew about these guys last year. But Biden's administration would not allow ICE to go in and take these guys off the street. As soon as the election happened, suddenly Trump sworn in, he now has pivoted and ICE comes in and gets these guys off the street. It's just an amazing cause and effect about this last election. Elections have consequences. Very grateful that President Trump is our commander-in-chief.
Of course, and that's what the American people voted for, overwhelmingly voted for, and not just in the presidential race. I had a special affinity for what was going on in the state of Montana. Number one, the state is just so beautiful. I love visiting there. It's probably one of my favorite places in the world to be. Incredible people, so beautiful. But I don't think a lot of people I didn't realize this actually. Montana hasn't always been a deep red state.
Yeah.
And now I think they're certainly seeing the consequences of having a very, very liberal Supreme Court in the state of Montana. Anyways, besides the point, there was an important Senate race that happened in the state. And I was so happy, as I'm sure you were, with the outcome of this Senate race. So just wanted to ask you what it's like having Tim Sheehy in the Senate with you compared to working alongside Jon Tester, who I will say, I know you're in a different position than me, but I will say what I have experienced with Jon Tester, at least the statements that he has issued publicly, he's a total fence-sitter just like Gavin Newsom. I don't believe that he believed half of the stuff that he was voting on, half of the liberal policies that he was voting on, one of those, of course, being the issue of men and women's sports. He continually advocated in opposition of protecting women and girls in sports. But then it was remarkable to me because after he had already finished his time in the Senate, after Tim Sheehy beat him, he was on, I think, with Bill Maher, and he says, look, I have daughters. This is crazy. I don't want boys on the court or on the field with my daughters, which is, again, in total contrast to everything he voted for, his voting record.
Well, I'll tell you, you look at what members of Congress do post-career. Jon Tester is now a contributor to MSNBC. Does that tell you about everything right there? So I'll just tell you that most Montanans don't like Rachel Maddow and watch MSNBC.
No.
But I really think, what you captured in this last election cycle with getting out there and protecting women, I think that was one of the sleeper issues that was absolutely one of the defining issues in this last election. I think you had those independent voters, even Democrat lean left voters, that just couldn't stomach how radical the Democrats had become and how the center of gravity of the party now was being defined by some of these crazy, whether it's these gender ideology nonsense and with these men now competing in women's sports. And I think that really was something that said, okay, that's a proof point around how crazy they are and why I can't vote for them. And I think that was really a defining issue that was part of Trump's landslide. I really do believe. And you were out there in front, the tip of the spear. And when you came to Montana, helping us out and helping out Tim Sheehy, here's a guy who had 200 combat missions as a Navy SEAL. a Naval Academy grad. His wife's a Marine. She's also a Naval Academy grad. They have 4 children. They were both deployed to Afghanistan at the same time. And it's an amazing story of heroism and protecting our country. And to have him back in Washington now as my battle buddy. When we go down the Senate floor, we're flying like the Blue Angels now in formation. But when Jon Tester was here, we cancel each other out on every vote. But now with Tim, what a great ad. And I just want to thank you for your investment in our state and our country by coming to Montana and helping Tim Sheehy win that race.
Please, it was his victory was huge, and again, I think it proved these policies. It extends beyond President Trump. Of course, I do believe people turned out to the polls to embrace Donald Trump, again, to embrace his America First agenda, to embrace his cabinet picks. But more so, I believe that people turned out to the polls to reject absurdity, and that is the entire platform that Jon Tester maybe wasn't running on. I don't think he liked to disclose a lot of his voting record publicly because, again, I think he knew it didn't represent Montana values. But nonetheless, it is his voting record. It's there. We see it.
That was probably key to that victory for Tim Sheehy is we exposed Jon Tester's voting record. When you run a campaign against an entrenched incumbent, I mean, Jon Tester had been in the U.S. Senate for 18 years. The way you beat an incumbent like that, first you have to fire the incumbent. So we made the argument, here's his voting record, out of step with where Montana is. Then you got to make the argument to hire the new guy. So it's fire and then hire. So we first had to establish the fact that Jon Tester voted with Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, 95% of the time. Montanans are going, oh, wait a minute, is that right? It's proof. So we got that out there. Now you got to give a reason to vote for Tim Sheehy. And that wasn't hard to do. Once we had this great American war hero there, his beautiful family, his amazing wife, Montanans knew they had the right guy.
His wife really is so cool, and his kids are just about the cutest kids I've ever seen. I've alluded to this story coming out of Missoula, which is kind of like this liberal bastion, again, in the red state that is Montana. They have been pushing LGBTQ plus pride to new heights, really. It was the Missoula City Council, I believe, that voted 9-2 just this past week to make the pride flag the city's official flag. This comes right after, really in the face of a recent bill signed into law by your awesome governor, who I've had the opportunity to meet several times now. He's such a fantastic guy. Again, his family too. That bans pride flags from being flown on government property and within any educational system, schools. So what in the world is going on here, Senator?
Well, we've got quite a rivalry with Missoula, by the way. I'm a Montana State University Bobcat Bozeman, so we have what we call Bobcat Grizzly. So my dad, though, in full disclosure, is a University of Montana graduate. He was a Marine. In fact, my mom was putting my dad through school there, a young Marine from Billings, Montana, pregnant with me, working at the local mercantile there, Missoula Merc. But I just watched Missoula has always been kind of a liberal bastion in the state. It's a university town, that happens. But they really took it to a new level of absurdity when they voted to have the pride flag be the official flag of Missoula. And as our governor said so eloquently, who's a dear friend of mine, Governor Gianforte, we were in the software business together before we both got involved in politics. I used to work for him in this. He was a CEO and I was his vice president. So I've known him a long, long time. But Greg said it well. He said, we want flags that unite our state, that unite our communities, like the American flag, like the flag of Montana, not an LGBTQ flag that absolutely divides our communities and divides our state, divides our nation. So we've got a little battle in our hands back there in Montana, what's going on in Missoula, but Missoula's kind of true to form as they've been in the past year of just a very far left kind of agenda at the city level. The county's much better off, the city, very far left.
That's what you see a lot oftentimes in, college cities, cities where there are colleges, especially even, I would say, more so in red states. You see that in Iowa. We haven't had that too bad in Tennessee yet. University of Tennessee still seems to be a stronghold for now. But what we've realized, all this to say, is no one is immune to the insanity that comes with liberal policies, especially on college campuses. Do you think it's things like the things we're talking about, whether it is the outrageous spending, whether it is LA on fire, whether it's of course the even taxpayer funded gender insanity in schools and beyond. Is it events like this that will ultimately influence 2026 midterms, or I believe even further, the 2028 presidential race? Like, are we seeing this tipping point here in public sentiment, maybe on things like crime, things like justice, parental rights, safeguarding of children? Is that something that a sense that you get as a senator?
Yeah, what I find remarkable, Riley, is that it seems like the left hasn't learned any lessons from this last election. Generally, there'll be a pivot more towards the middle. If you're way out on the edge, the teeter-totter, there's a pivot back towards the middle where common sense is. They haven't done that. They're doubling down on their policies. And I think that's a problem that Democrats have. They said, well, it's a messaging problem. No. It's a product problem. It's fundamentally flawed in terms of what the party stands for. And you've got increasingly moderates leaving the party. And what happens is it just comes down to the essence of the party now being a very far left-led organization. That's where they're at right now. Because it's, you think about as someone of faith, we think about the Trinity. As our guiding North Star here, the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. That's the Trinity. The Trinity of the left, I think, is abortion, it's climate change, and it's LGBTQ. That's their Trinity, those three. So everything they see is through that lens of abortion, of LGBTQ, and climate change. It is their religion.
Yeah.
So, and they see government as their God. Ultimately, we see, as men and women of faith, that government has been in place by God to restrain the dark side of mankind. That's part of government's responsibility. And so, I think it's a fundamental, foundational issue that's going to start continually separating. And it's going to bring moderates and independents away from the Democrat Party. We just got to give them a reason to vote for us. Again. I think there's plenty of reasons not to vote for Democrats. We got to give them a reason to vote for us, and that's why President Trump's America First agenda is so important.
It's so true, and especially, you mentioned these battles that we face. They're certainly spiritual battles. I had my eyes just totally open. Speaking personally, about 3 years ago, always being an outspoken Christian, always being an outspoken conservative, but once the veil was lifted, I couldn't unsee what I was seeing. Therefore, it felt obligatory to do something, to get involved in any way that I can. And I think describing it, the left has found a new religion, and it has nothing to do with our Lord and Savior, our Creator, who died on the cross, rose again 3 days later for the option, the hope of eternal life. So totally agree with you there. Last thing for you. I just love finding out people's why, right? You describe your family, hopefully to have, you said 7, this will be your 7th grandbaby?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, well, how incredible, praise God.
Thank you.
You've got your family, you've got the beautiful state of Montana waiting for you when you're done here. So I guess my question for you is why be there in such a polarized setting? What keeps you grounded, I guess, in Montana values?
Yeah. Well, you just described an important part of it, faith and truly family. That phrase gets overused sometimes, but that's true. Grounded, I'm very grateful that when I'm back home, I'm home almost every weekend. So as I say to friends and family and constituents, I work in D.C., but I live in Montana. We're avid outdoors people. We hunt, we fish, we backpack, we do all the things we ski, they do in Montana. Shot a coyote off my porch Friday night when I was back home. My wife spotted it 400 yards in her pasture, and I shot it. That's Montana. That's who we are.
That's it.
But when I come back here, it's a different world in Washington. But I have a chance to attend our home church every Sunday. Get a chance to see my grandkids every weekend, and that groundedness is really important. Then to bring that when you come back to Washington. I've always said you never want to have your identity defined by your title that you carry as a senator. I could walk away from this job tomorrow. I'm still the same person as I am here today. I don't find my identity in that. I truly don't. It's an honor to do it. I'm very respectful of the office and those I get to serve with, but I don't find my identity in it. I see it as a chance to serve.
Yeah, well, that's incredible. And we need more like that, certainly on both sides of the aisle. I'll tell you, my brother's watching Yellowstone right now, and he is obsessed.
Yeah.
He has now branded himself, like put this hot iron thing on the stove, heated it up. He feels like he is a real Montana cowboy. So
I got to meet your brother. It's funny. People ask me, do they say, do I watch Yellowstone? It's the number one question I get oftentimes. And I'm not against the show, but we watched one episode one time, but I said, well, why do I want to watch it when I get to live it?
yeah,
Literally, our family has a sod farm in the Bitterroot where they film. So it's filmed south of Missoula, actually, right? About an hour and a half south is where they film it every episode. And then the fictitious place is Paradise Valley, where it takes place. I hunt and fish. I killed a bear down there 3 weeks ago, a big old black bear in grizzly country. So that's where I spend my time. And so to me, I get to live it. But I'm thrilled. We have a lot of people who are now adopted Montanans. They like the show. I'm happy to chat with your brother sometime. And if he ever comes out to Montana, I'll give him a tour.
oh my gosh, don't tell him that. I think he thinks John Dutton is the real governor of Montana.
When I speak, I usually I'll start off by saying Governor Dutton sends his best regards. And usually gets a laugh.
That is so funny. Well, I appreciate you and everything that you have done, will continue to do, and for being such a great role model even to other public servants. Really, really appreciate it.
Well, back at you. As a father of two daughters, talk about a role model. Thank you for being out there in the arena. We appreciate you a lot. The Daines family does.
Crazy we have to be.
That's right.
Thank you guys for joining the Gains for Girls podcast. As I mentioned in the intro, go to youtube.com/OutKick. That's where you will find all things Gains for Girls. That's where you can subscribe. That's where you can watch some of the previous episodes that we have done. We've had some incredible guests, including Senator Sheehy. We mentioned him on this episode with Senator Daines today, his counterpart in representing the state of Montana in the U.S. Senate. You can go check out that episode. Also, I want you to go to cozyearth.com. Middle of June, it's hot outside, it's humid. I live in the state of Tennessee. Somehow, it doesn't matter how low we have our thermostat, doesn't matter how high we have our fan, our room gets hot in the middle of the night. But you can go to cozyearth.com, check out their bamboo sheets. Incredible. They are a game changer. You can use my code GAINS, GAINES, for 40% off. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you again next week. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching. The fight to save women's sports and restore common sense is far from over, and I continue the conversation every week. So make sure to catch more content over here and subscribe to OutKick so you don't miss a thing.